Hello you beautiful creatures. Today I'm going to be showing you how I made my Lughnasadh doll in preparation for the Lughnasadh Sabbath coming up in the Southern Hemisphere on February the 2nd. As I am in the Southern Hemisphere, Lughnasadh falls at the end of our summer, which is early February. I think it is from the 2nd to 4th this year. And I thought it'd be a really cool way to document the Sabbaths and the Wheel of the Year this year by producing a doll for each Sabbath that can sit on my altar during ritual. And yeah, I thought I'd bring you guys along. And if you don't have any interest in the Wiccan faith, I hope you do keep watching, as this is still a one-of-a-kind art doll instructional video where you'll get to see me turn a Monster High doll into a one-of-a-kind piece of art. So to begin with, I have chosen the Viperine face mold. I really enjoy her face mold. I love her super cute big forehead and her really wide set eyes. I think her angles are really interesting. So for my Lughnasadh doll, I did choose Viperine. As beautiful as Viperine's face is, we are going to have to remove the factory paint so that we can start with a clean base for our Lughnasadh doll. To remove the factory paint, I'm just going to be using nail polish remover with an acetone base. If you are going to be using nail polish remover, you do want that acetone base so it has no struggles up against the factory paint. So what I've gone ahead and done is grabbed a Q-tip soaked in that nail polish remover, and as you can see, the factory paint is just sliding off. This is not the case with non-acetone based nail polish removers, so do make sure if you're not going to buy 100% acetone, you do opt for an acetone based nail polish remover. I got mine at the Chemist Warehouse, super cheap if you are in New Zealand or Australia. So a little more on the inspiration for this doll. Lughnasadh is said to have begun as a funeral feast and celebration in commemoration of Talita, who is the god Lu's mother. Talita is said to have died of exhaustion after clearing the plains of Ireland to allow for agriculture to begin, and there's this really beautiful image of Talita as the dying vegetation that allows us to feed. So in this doll I really wanted to pay homage to Talita and Lughnasadh by incorporating images of and symbols of the first harvest, so things such as the colors green and yellow, corn, wheat, the first fruits, things like that. So now that the factory paint is removed and she is completely paint free, we're going to move on to deheading and dehairing our doll. So I'm going to start by giving her a really super cool short haircut with my scissors here, just buzzing it off so that when we do take the head off and we start ripping the plugs out from inside, it's a little less time consuming. Monster High doll heads are made of vinyl, so with heat they do expand, making them super easy to pull off the body. You want to be really careful not to remove the plug that is in the neck. So we just leave her in there to warm up, get all squidgy and soft, like so. Then when I pull her out, it'll be super easy to pull off her head. Be mindful that the water was extremely hot, so now that water is inside the warm doll head. So you want to grab a cloth so that you're not grabbing the doll's head with your hand and burning your hand. And it should be really easy to get the doll head off once you do have a towel, because it should be super soft and just come on out. Yeah, super easy. Just like that, we've got it, head separated from the body and plug intact, just what we want to see. So now moving on to derooting the doll head, I've got some really old beard scissors. A lot of people like to use needle nose pliers, but I find these scissors help really cut through those thick masses of glue that seem to be inside, there you go, Monster High heads. So I've gone ahead and sped this up because this process is quite arduous and does take quite a while. It took me, I think, close to 20 minutes to make sure all the plugs were out and the glue was out too. Sometimes you get glue rattling around in the head. So just really go to town on it, scrape around, and make sure you're careful of your fingers when you pull out those clumps of glue. And we're all done. Super quick, she's bald, ready to go, ready for her new hairstyle. There's quite a lot inside her head, so make sure you throw that out as it is covered in glue too. Something I thought that was quite interesting was this extra hole in her head, perhaps a factory fault or from the design of the doll. But now that she's all ready to go, she can have her first sealant spray. For sealant, I am using Mr. Super Clear. It's quite hard to access here in the Southern Hemisphere, so if you are in New Zealand, I found mine at Hobby City. Once she's been sprayed with sealant, it is important to let her dry, so I'm just going to leave her alone for half an hour to an hour and then be back to do her face up. So to begin my face up, I am going to grab a brown watercolor pencil to sketch out the eye shape I'm going for. I really want a heavy lidded look. I want my doll to look very tired, very dreamy, kind of stoic, to call back to the Talitha origin of Lughnasadh. So I've gone with that brown to get that really small eye shape, heavy lid. Then I've taken a red watercolor pencil to sketch out the reds of the eyes. So there's not going to be a lot of room for the whites of the eyes because the iris will also be quite large. I love this look on dolls. I think it looks really realistic and more humanized rather than big cartoonish anime eyes, which are also gorgeous and beautiful, but for the purpose of this doll, I really did want that dream state kind of glazed over eye look. So that's what I've gone for. So using various watercolor pencils in the colors brown and red, I am building up the colors and shadows in this doll's eye shape. It's really important, like with doing makeup or doing an oil painting, that the underpainting is done kind of heavily, so with the more sprays of sealant, the shadows still remain. So yeah, just building that up over and over, and now moving on to the sides of the face and traditional contouring zones. I haven't done a lot of blushing. I don't want her to look super flushed, but I do want her to have sort of a sun-kissed glow to the edges of her skin to kind of call back to that late summer, early harvest season, being out in the sun kind of skin glow. And she does have quite a lot of golden specks in her mold. Her vinyl has a natural sheen to it, so I think this looks really beautiful and really summery. And now just grabbing for a Q-tip to blend out that watercolor just with a little bit of moisture so that it is seamless blending. I really like this effect. I think it creates a similar effect to pastels if you didn't want to use pastels. Now moving on to sketching out the iris, I wanted to give her an off to the side look rather than a straightforward eye-facing eye. I felt like this looked a little more dreamy because I don't want my doll to look super present. So yeah, just deepening up some of the shading in her nostrils and her eye creases, and we're good to go. Drawing upon the traditional colours of green and yellow for Lughnasadh celebrations, I'm building up a halo eye look with dark greens on the outside and a more goldy yellow centre for my doll's eye look. With these heavy eyelids, there's heaps of space to create a really dreamy effect. And then going forward, I'm just going to keep building colour and adding detail with black and white pencil until I reach my desired effect. Now I'm going ahead and colouring in the iris. I want to give her a really golden sunburst kind of colour. So I'm starting with variations of orange and yellow, and then I'll be deepening the outside with a brown pencil to really give that kind of starburst effect. And now that I'm happy with the iris, I'm just drawing in the pupil. Again, the eyes are off center, so she does have a bit of a hazy look, and so her pupils start small, but I do kind of fill them out to be quite a bit bigger. And now that I'm happy with the majority of this eye look, I just add a few highlights and go in with a black pencil to draw in her lash line and final details. And that's the look. Moving on to the rest of the face now, I just sketch in a really natural lip look, so with a few fine lines and a kind of deeper red center, and then flushed out to a soft pink. I really like this lip look. I think it's really natural and really human, and yeah. And now that I'm happy with the lip look, I'm just thinking about eyebrows. I'm going to go for something soft, feathery, in a warm kind of brown space so that I have more options for her hair when I come to choose. So I'm starting with a medium brown color just to sketch out the kind of shape, and then going in with lighter and darker pencils to define each hair strand. So for hair, I knew I really wanted to do a golden blonde, kind of be reminiscent of corn husks. I had two options, one sort of more neutral and one more yellow leaning. I ended up choosing the more yellow as I liked its looser wave and it had a bit more length, and I just really liked the golden color. I knew it was going to merge well with the image for her clothing I had in mind. So for this doll, I am using pre-wefted hair. I'm not super confident on rerooting yet, so I find this method a little bit easier and beginner friendly. I just need to unravel my wefts and glue them on. Now I am using this glue from Spotlight. It's super quick drying, like eyelash glue almost, but it is 55% acetone, so it will remove your doll's face up if it does come in contact with the paint. So to protect from that, I am going to create a little shield out of cling wrap for my doll, just to make sure that if there are any spillages or my sticky fingers touch her face while I'm working with the wefts, I don't need to worry about the face up that I've just spent several hours doing. So just pinning in some cling wrap into her already holy head. It doesn't really matter, we're going to cover it with wefts anyway. And yeah, then you're good to go with some peace of mind. And now moving on to placing my wefts, I am working with a 1 meter long weft of hair. So I just throw some glue down. You might see my hair, as I do myself, have quite a lot of hair pop into screen. And then I work in probably 5 centimeter lots and make sure that I'm pinning down at every point of stress to make sure that the glue really adheres to the plastic. There's quite a lot of tricky angles as I didn't cut off her ears to begin with because I quite liked her kind of elven shaped ears. So getting around all those angles means it does take a lot of pins and a lot of time, but it's really worth it. And I'm going in a spiral motion around the head, getting closer and closer to the crown in circular motions so that when we get to the end of the weft, it's kind of hidden and there's not a huge massive seam noticeable. You'll see what I mean. our weft, you can see that due to the circular motion, all of the seams are hidden under the next. So it's just going to be super simple to finish, and there. So you can barely see the seam. A lot of dolls are done this way, and I just get to rake out her super awesome long wavy hair. I'm really happy with how this turned out. It's gorgeous, and I think it really does have that corn husk energy that I really wanted to convey. So just pulling off her little mask so I can really get the full image of how she's looking, and move on to styling the hair. So I was tossing up on whether I was going to do a corn husk crown, but I think I'm going to go for a braided crown because it's going to help the hair lay a bit flatter and look a bit more natural, less wig-like. And this is the finished hairstyle. I'm really glad I went with the braids rather than the corn husk crown, and so time to move on to clothing. Keeping into tradition with the Lughnasadh colorings, I'm going with this wheat printed cream colored fabric, traditional kind of green and bright sunny yellow. Halfway through what was going to be a green dress, I changed my mind as always and decided I wanted to do a yellow dress. So I threw caution to the wind and recut all my pattern pieces. I am using quite a few pieces from DG Requiem on Etsy's clothing patterns. I'll leave some links below. And yeah, her little yellow sundress was on its way. If you are just starting out, I do want to say that you shouldn't feel like you have to sew everything at this scale. You can absolutely use fabric glue, especially when you're using detailing like little lace or adding little buttons. You don't need to make sure you're sewing every single thing. So now that I'm happy with the detailing, it's time to finish the dress. So I've just gone ahead and sewn the skirt halfway up, and then using glue finished the outside seams of the skirt. I'll be adding snap fixtures to the back of the top to make sure that the dress is easy to take on and off, but closes seamlessly. Here I'm just attaching my snap closures. Almost immediately I wish I had gone for Velcro or just sewn her dress shut. This was quite fiddly and there was quite a lot of bulkage to the lace and fabric, so I did end up using fabric glue to assure that the snap closures lay flat. Next time I think I will just go for either a sew-in or maybe a hook and eye, as I don't really tend to change the outfits of these dolls. They're more designed to be looked at rather than played with, so next time I think I will choose something different. And now the final addition to this little dress is the little lace cuffs. I'm going with the same lace that I used previously, and just pulling it in nice and tight so there is that kind of balloon sleeve look. And now you have one little yellow Lughnasadh dress. Looking at it, I knew I hadn't utilized the wheat print fabric well enough, nor used the green at all, so I knew I needed to make some additions. So I decided to make a little apron out of the wheat fabric. I thought this was so fitting for a early harvest doll, just with a little yellow velvet waist tie and some lace finishing. I think they complement each other really well, and I cannot wait to see it on. And for the usage of the green fabric, I thought more about the green outer husks of fresh corn, and decided since that's the color scheme I'm really going with, that a cute little green coat was perfect. So here's my little green coat, simple tie at the neck, again using a DG Requiem Etsy pattern, which I will link below. And yeah, that's her little 3-piece outfit. Let's put her in it. adorable. I really feel the Lughnasadh early harvest spirit in her. I love her eye look. I think it turned out so good, but there was just one thing missing. Something I always like to do on Lughnasadh is make corn husk dolls. I love dolls of all type, and I think the corn husk doll is such a easy and simple way to be creative on Lughnasadh. So taking some dried corn husk that I had in preparation for Lughnasadh coming up next week, I decided I'd make a tiny little corn husk doll to go alongside my Lughnasadh doll as a sort of talisman for her. So here I am, just starting off my corn husk doll. It was really fiddly at the scale, as I had taken one corn husk and divided it into 6 parts. So it was really fine and really fiddly, and they'd been drying out for some time, as during this time of year in New Zealand, corn is really cheap. It's like 6 cobs for like $4. So I've had it for quite a while, this corn husk, and so it does tear a bit on me, as you can see, but there's always a solution. I've always got more husks around, so I just had to make do with what I could. So here's the process of me making a tiny corn husk doll for my tiny Lughnasadh doll. And now that we're coming to the end of my corn husk doll, I do just need to snip a few parts, as it is quite long for scale compared to the Lughnasadh doll. So I'm just trimming that down, and then we'll be all done. There you have it. And here is my little finished corn husk doll for my little Lughnasadh doll. I think they look adorable together, and I think this is the perfect finishing touch. She is so adorable, and I'm so in love with her. I can't wait to put her on my altar for Lughnasadh. She is just so cute, and I love her eye look. If you guys did enjoy today's project as much as I did, please give us a like and a subscribe. Leave a comment below on how you're celebrating Lughnasadh. And yeah, we'll see you soon with more crafts and more curios.